the guns will start in 30 seconds to fire this death gun salute in marking a life of service to the Queen by her consort. And these will be echoed at 6 other locations and also on board 2 ships at sea and in Gibraltar. It has just gone noon. You're watching Sky News live coverage of the death gun salute to mark the Duke of Edinburgh, who died yesterday. And returning to Edinburgh Castle, where there is now time for the gun which has just fired to be reloaded, and also time to reflect again on how the Duke of Edinburgh had carried the name of this city, the capital of Scotland, in his life all around the world. And for him, therefore, this firing of the gun has its own significance as the next gun is fired. We now go across the country to London, where the simultaneous second shot has been fired by the Honourable Artillery Company, the oldest regiment in the British Army, the Tower of London, where the crown jewels of the United Kingdom are stored, and to which the Duke came on a number of occasions, not least when he was appointed by the Queen to be the chairman of the Coronation Committee just after she came to the throne and organised the coronation in 1953. It is the great citadel of England, and it is the well-known guarding point at the entrance of London, where the Prince did so much of his service to the Queen, working from Buckingham Palace. And at Cardiff Castle too, preparing for this gun salute. You'll see the firing and then the discharge of the shell case. They are, of course, blank firing today, but these guns knew battle, and they were guns that were in operation and in service in some of the battlefields that were being fought hard over when the Duke of Edinburgh, as a young officer in the Royal Navy, was, along with the Army and the Royal Air Force across all the Allies, fighting against the Axis powers of tyranny in the Second World War. Had to fire. Of the Queen when she is in Northern Ireland. Of course, throughout the Queen's reign, the struggles for security and peace within a nation that has a history of discord has been very much a part of the Queen's reign. And we remember when the Duke of Edinburgh accompanied the Queen to go to Ireland on that historic state visit, and also what a great deal it had meant to him to see peace returned there after the struggles of that time, particularly with the loss of his uncle, Lord Mountbatten. But to Devonport, and the Royal Navy are firing their guns also in salute at Devonport, the historic and largest of the naval bases of Europe.
Number 1 gun! Fire!
Wearing the anti-flash that is always worn on board ship, particularly when guns firing in battle. Battles that Prince Philip, as I say, remembered very much seeing start in Italy at the beginning of his service in the Second World War, and suddenly realising, as he said, and then they all started firing back and you suddenly realised that this was real war. He was also out in Japan at the time that the peace was finally signed at the end of hostilities in 1945. We now go to Woolwich, with its ancient history as a scene of the revictualling of ships nearby at Deptford, and the Royal Horse Artillery are preparing to fire their guns. The King's Troop, Royal Horse Artillery. The guns here are firing in front of the largest frontage of any building of the Georgian period, 1,000 feet long, massive building with the guns laid out in front of the centre of that building where the old officers' mess and the Duke of Edinburgh frequently went as a guest there, because his reach into the armed forces was so considerable as a field marshal for longer than anyone else had ever been in. Going to Portsmouth next, and at Portsmouth, where so many occasions a young naval officer, Prince Philip, would have set out to sea to play his part in the battles. And again, the anti-flash will remind us of what warfare's like in a ship. And perhaps one of the most dangerously protected areas during the Second World War was in Gibraltar, where the great guns were protecting the entrance to the Mediterranean and through which, with their submarine nets, the Prince saw that preparation as the guns fired there too. Enormous amount of smoke, and the Royal Gibraltar Regiment will, after all, had to defend the Rock through some very difficult times in history, going way back to the very start of its part of British ownership. Back to Edinburgh Castle and the seat of the Dukedom of Edinburgh, and the gun is about to be fired.
Fire!
And it's a beautiful day in Edinburgh too, with the wonderful views from the castle. I'm very proud to be its governor at the moment, and I'm very proud too of the excellence of the Royal Regiment of Artillery in delivering this salute to the Duke of Edinburgh. And what a day. And the Duke, who loved Scotland, he was educated at Gordonston. He was up at Balmoral with the royal family frequently, and each year the Queen and he came up for Royal Week to mark the duties, and particularly opening the Scottish Parliament when that moment came.